And we are live. What's going on YouTube Live? It is your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is, where are you at? As always, I like to share what I mean by my topic. With the topic, where are you at? What I mean with this topic is, where are you at mentally? Doing check-ins mentally for where you're at in your mental state, but also where you may be at in a physical state or in a relationship or any other type of state that you may be in. But really doing check-ins and making sure that you are not getting stuck in the present moment, understanding the present moment is temporal. So tonight I have three tools for the first row that I want to jump right in on tonight to give you when it comes to where you're at, finding out where you're at, and how to move out of a place if you are stuck where you're at or caught in a jam. What's going on, Mark Anthony? Good to see you, man. I'll try to tune into your show after I get done with my show tonight. So jumping straight into it, the first tool that I came up with when it comes to where are you at is don't ignore your circumstances. And the reason I say don't ignore your circumstances is because a lot about where we're at today in this present moment, whether it's a mental state or a physical state, where we are at is a result of choices we've made in our journey to get to the present, to today, to this moment. And when we ignore our circumstances or we ignore the present as it is today, what we do is we kind of turn this blind eye and we become okay with what we are currently in, even when we are not okay with it. Whether that's if you're in a bad mood and you're just like, I'm in a bad mood and this is just where I am, and you ignore all the circumstances that might be driving this bad mood. It could be something as simple as you haven't eaten. Today, actually, while I was at work, I started to get a headache, and I was like, man, why am I getting a headache? Am I not drinking enough water? Maybe I need to eat something. Then I ate something and my headache was still there. And so I started thinking, like, what is going on for this headache to be taking place? Where I'm at right now is a physical headache. And then I stopped and I thought, and I said, oh, you know what it is? I've cut back on a lot of the sugar that I was eating to like a whole lot. Like I cut a whole lot of sugar back. So because I cut so much sugar back, I'm just suffering from a sugar withdrawal that is driving a headache. And so when I say don't ignore your circumstances, the reason why I'm saying don't ignore that circumstance is because, so for me, the lack of sugar, now I have a question to ask myself. Well, how did I get to the point where if I didn't eat sugar for the day, I would get a headache? Oh, by eating too much sugar on a regular basis. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth the suffering for these 2 days that it's going to take for this headache to go away? And then being more responsible with the sugar consumption? Or do I just want to go ahead and start eating sugar to make the headache go away right now? Where am I at? I didn't eat any more sugar. I mean, there's some dessert that I'm going to eat later tonight, but it's not the abundance of sugar that I have been eating. So, but that circumstance of me having this headache, what it comes down to is understanding that if I just ignore it and like, oh, I just have a headache. Oh, the day is horrible. Everything's going wrong. I wish this headache would go away. All I'm doing is I'm focusing on the actual headache, but I'm not focusing on the symptoms or the journey, the circumstances that led to the headache. Now, because I'm focusing on the circumstances that led to the headache, I'm able to say, okay, now how do I want to approach the solution? How do I want to bring it to where I'm at and where do I want to go next? The other thing about don't ignore the circumstances is our circumstances, when we pay attention to them, they give us clues as to what's going on. So I was listening to a conversation the other day between some coworkers, and they were talking, maybe it was today or yesterday or so, but they're talking about how, you know, people who say I've lived a life with no regrets, no anything. I just, you know, every decision that I made, if I could make them all again, I'd make them exactly the same way. And they were like, well, that's kind of like not taking any of the lessons and the experience that you got from these experiences. I understand from the philosophical approach that, yeah, you know, if I could make all the same mistakes again, I would make them because they are inherently they drive a portion of who I am today. However, if I could take all of this knowledge that I've had from the very beginning or from this point and take it all the way back to the beginning of the game, please believe I'd make some different chess moves. Now, that doesn't mean that we have this life that's just filled with regret. But as humans, we're going to make mistakes. And the best thing you can do with any mistake you're ever given, what's going on, Brother Bruce, is to learn from it. Because you've already paid the cost of admission. So if you're going to pay for the class, you might as well make sure you retain the knowledge that you get from it. So from that perspective of really focusing on what your circumstances are in the present, when you are stuck in the present and you're trying to get unstuck, what you're looking for in that present moment is the wisdom to move forward and out of your current circumstances. So that's the very first tool. And it also, in essence, whenever you do ignore circumstances, what you're doing is you're living a lie. You're telling yourself that, oh, it's okay. I'm okay with the way things are right now, even when you're not. Even if you're saying, oh, I can't stand this, and I just wish life was better, and I'm so tired of struggling, and I'm so tired of this and that and the other. Even if you're verbally saying those things, your actions, or I should say your inaction or unwillingness to act, will really show that you're okay with it, and you're really just you kind of fall in love, and it sounds weird, but you kind of fall in love with the complaining process. And I will raise both hands and say I have been guilty of that myself, falling in love with the complaining process. It's something that I constantly as a parent have to struggle with, identifying what your kids do that are positive and identifying what your kids do that are negative, and not just simply focusing on the negative. It's hard because as a parent, you want to correct. As a parent, you want to guide. As a parent, you want to try to nurture into the right direction. But the issue is if all you're focusing on is the things that you can correct, or things that you feel are broken or need to be fixed, then you're never giving the attention, the time, and the nurture to the things that are working properly. So that's tool number one. Don't ignore your circumstances. If you want to find out where you're at, you're going to have to take an honest look at your circumstances and really look at what changes you need to make in order to move out of those circumstances. Tool number two for the first row. The tool number two is determine a destination before you plot a course. And man, I didn't want to use this one, but this is the one I'm going to use because it's still ringing true in my head. We see this a lot in relationships, in unhappy relationships. A lot of times when people are in unhappy relationships, and myself I'm included in this one as well, we'll be in an unhappy relationship. And instead of simply saying, you know what, not that it's this person's responsibility to make me happy, but I feel like there is a significant drain on my peace, my clarity, my happiness, my drive, or whatever it may be. I feel like there's a significant drain based on this relationship. And instead of just simply saying that and acknowledging that, going back to ignoring the circumstances, instead of just saying that and acknowledge that, and instead of thinking intelligently, what is the best way for both of us to part ways in this relationship? Let me not say we. What I used to do was I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not happy with this part of the relationship, so I'll go and find it somewhere else. And I'm not happy with this part of the relationship, and I'll go and find it somewhere else. Now, I call that outsourcing. There was a time where I would outsource anything that I needed to be outsourced in a relationship. I just outsource it. The problem is that just simply outsourcing it, there's some things that are inappropriate to outsource. Maybe a sexual relationship, maybe an intimate relationship that's not sexual but heavily filled with flirting. Those things are not things that you should be outsourcing if you're in a committed relationship. Now, if you're in an open relationship, knock yourself out. But if you're in a committed one-on-one monogamous relationship, then those are things that you shouldn't be outsourcing. But what I would do is I would outsource these things without really thinking about where I wanted those things to land. So these things that I would outsource, they get all jumbled up, and then emotions would be tied up over here, and emotions in the relationship that I'm in, and all these different things, they get all intertwined and tangled and messy. It was because I knew that I wanted something different, but instead of deciding which direction I wanted to go in, I just simply started walking in a direction. And that's why determining a destination before you plot your course is super important, not just in relationships and careers and education, in other relationships with people that you might just be friends with. Understanding that if you're going to connect with someone, understand what you want from that connection. And it's not saying that you're going around using people or wanting or taking advantage of people or seeing what you can get from people, but it's about being clear and concise on what exactly it is that you're trying to achieve in the connection. Now, there's people that I will hit it off with immediately. I'm like, man, they're a really cool person. I really want to get to know more about them and find out if this is somebody that I would want to bring into my circle as a friend. But my destination is friendship. And once I understand my destination is friendship, as I'm walking along the course, I can now make adjustments if I find that things are out of order in that. I have a really, really, really good friend who is a female, who's beautiful young lady. And I remember when we first got back in touch that it was like, oh, it's cool, see how you're doing. Social media kind of reconnected us, and we ended up going out to dinner. Now, I'm in a relationship at the time. I'm not looking to go and outsource anything in the relationship at the time. I'm just simply in a relationship, and I had a old friend that I wanted to reunite with. But when we started reuniting and we started having all these conversations, and they were interesting and intriguing and thought provoking, my brain, because I'm an intellectual, well, the technical term is a sapiosexual, a person who's attracted to intelligence. My brain started saying, "Ooh, I kind of like her," but that wasn't what I was there for. So because I understood what the destination was, which was friendship, which there's still a very great friendship today, I was able to course correct, and I had to come to her and be honest and transparent and say, "Hey, look, I know we're enjoying each other's company, and I know we talk frequently, but I need to take like a week of time to step back so that way I'm not moving in the wrong direction, because I feel that my mind says this is a cool person, I'm clicking, we're vibing, and I want to see what else there is to this relationship. Well, this is a friendship, so the friendship can be deeper, and the friendship can be more can be strengthened. However, what we're not going to do is take that friendship path and then just kind of veer over to the relationship friends with benefits path. And so that's why that tool is very important. And what it also does is it helps make sure that we're investing energy in the right direction. Defining your destination before you plot your course, what sense does it make to say, okay, well, we're going to bring a hiking gear, we're going to bring snow boots, and we're going to bring thermal blankets and all these different things. However, your destination is the desert, and you don't got to go through any mountain ranges in order to get there. So it makes sure that we're investing our energy into the right directions, and that we're forging the either healthy relationships, whether it's at work or in our personal lives. It makes sure that we're forging them in a healthy manner, just like forging, I guess it's similar to forging a river. If you're going to cross a river, you don't try to cross in the deepest, most rapid part of the river. You try to cross in the river where it's shallow, it's a little bit more calm. Because you're plotting a course to get to somewhere. You're not plotting a course to just simply fall by the wayside. And then the last thing about that is in determining a destination before you plot your course is simply making sure that you have the right tools for your journey. If that's a college education that you need for your journey, then make sure that you're going to plot that course through the academia to get the right credentials so that you can do whatever it is you want to do. And I think that's really, really important when it comes to looking at where we're at mentally and looking where we're at physically in the present moment, and deciding if we want to go somewhere else. We're going to have to determine where that other place is, because sometimes we just get so fed up with the area that we are in, or the place that we're in the present, which is temporal. We get so fed up with the place we're at in the present that we'll just take anywhere. We'll go in any direction. You know what? Anywhere is better than here. I'll go to the south. I'll go to the north. I'll go to the east, or whatever it may be. Good morning, or Hazy. My son just walked in. I guess I should have locked the door before I went live, but whatever. So that's tool number 2. Determine a destination before you plot a course. Tool number 3 is don't be a prisoner to your current location. There's so many places I can go with this. I think my favorite, I'm gonna say it's my favorite, but actually what I mean by favorite is my least favorite saying is, well, that's just the way that I am. That's just how I am. Look, I could have been just a lot of different ways in life and chose not to change, but that wouldn't have been the best version of me. I can be honest about that. I don't think we would be sitting and listening to me on any Wednesday words. And honestly, I don't think I would have the depth of thought to even produce Wednesday word content. But just because you're in your current location, don't make yourself the prisoner there. And I always feel like in these situations in life, people, self included, we're our own worst and best wardens. We're so there was a video I did a while ago, I think a year ago or so, and I was saying that we sometimes feel like we're unworthy of success. So instead of saying, you know what, I know I come from a tough neighborhood. I know I come from a divided family or a mixed family. I know that I have this emotional issue, or that I suffer from depression or anxiety or whatever it may be. Instead of accepting what we actually have or what our current situation is and saying, I'm going to thrive in spite of, we say, well, because I come from a tough neighborhood, it was already expected that I wasn't going to make it anyway. So what does it matter whether I sell drugs on the corner? What does it matter whether I'm breaking into cars? What does it matter whether I'm living off of assistance and really taking advantage of a system? Like, what does that matter? But really, that's us simply making ourselves prisoners to our current location. The best thing that you can do to earn your freedom is to simply look and say, what is it that I want? And then what is it that I'm going to do to work to get it? Work to get it. Because you can want until the cows come home, but if you ain't gonna put the work in, you're gonna be a wanting fool. So that aspect is really important to me as well, because I feel like as society continues to make this shift, and I don't even want to say it continues, as society has officially transitioned from the 40 years in a career, work for the same organization, and then retire with a pension or retirement or whatever it may be. As we have shifted now completely away from that, and we're in this very temporal state, it's easy to get caught up in, oh, well, I can't leave this job because of the fact that if I leave this job, I'm going to have to start all over. Or moving to the next job, well, I'm going to just take the same position that I had at the previous job because that's what I always do. Look, when I was growing up, well, not even growing up, when I was well into my young adulthood, I had a career of working in call centers, just call centers, taking phone calls, taking phone calls, taking phone calls. And to the point where sometimes when I'm in the current organization that I work in, if I answer the phone, because I don't get a whole lot of calls now, but if I answer the phone, sometimes I forget what company to say that I'm answering for. That's how many calls I've taken or how many call centers I've worked in my career. But the interesting thing is even though I was working in the call center and taking call center jobs, for me, I never made myself a prisoner in that call center seat. It was like, hey, yeah, I'm going to take these calls. I'm going to, answer as many calls and try to hit my call quality metrics and all those things. Yeah, that's all great, fine, and dandy. But I was always looking for what is the next destination. Why? So I could plot a course. And now where I'm at in my career, I'm an analyst. I've been an analyst for, I think, like almost 8 years or so now. But when I first got my foot in the door, finally from a call center seat to an analyst position, immediately, because I knew this is something that I wanted to do, something that I want to do and wanted to do, I immediately started plotting my course. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had to stay in this analyst role with this organization for a minimum of 5 years in order to get the experience and understand the role enough to where I could then stand on my own and either go and apply for another company or do something else in regards. I would think it would still be in the background of analytics because I really like data. However, it gave me that ability to understand through clarity that I don't have to be a prisoner to this call center seat. And once I got a chance to another call, and they find different ways to not take calls in the call center rather than just simply excel to the best of their ability in the call center. And this can be in any other profession as well. It doesn't have to be a call center. I'm just saying from my own personal experience. But because they work harder at trying to find out how to manipulate and avoid the system, they actually end up staying in the very seat that they don't want to be in longer than they need to be. However, then they'll look at somebody who is excelling in their metrics and really pushing to get into the upper management or supervisor, manager, director, whatever they're trying to get to. They'll look at that person, and then when they finally achieve it, they'll say, oh man, you were lucky. I wish I had that opportunity. The lie that you're telling yourself is that you never have the opportunity. And that's what is, don't be a prisoner to your current location. Don't be a prisoner to where you are at in the present, whether that is a physical job that you're at, or if you're mentally in a location where you're depressed, where you're anxious, where you're tired and you just feel defeated. If you're in a physical or mental location, don't allow yourself to start writing the story or the manuscript or the biography of why you're in that location so you can stay there longer. Really understand that this is a mental game to where whatever story you choose to buy into, that's the story that you're going to be the character in, and that's the story you're going to act out. So really quick, just to go over the 3 tools again. The very first tool when it comes to where are you at is Don't ignore your circumstances. Do in spite of your circumstances, but know yeah, regardless of your circumstances, take action, but know what you're working to change. And that's what understanding your circumstances will do, is it'll allow you to identify this key point right here is one maybe of many, but it's at least one that I can work on changing in order to improve my present, which is, or my future, I guess. My present and my future, they're kind of one and the same. Number two is determine a destination before you plot a course. I have a Facebook page that I created way before I started doing first row content, but it was called Things Many Fathers Forget to Teach Their Children. And the motto to that channel was think and move. Like, once you have time to think about what you want to do, then move. Other than that, any movement you make is going to be either reactive, or hopefully instinctual in the right direction. But any move that you're going to make is probably not going to be well thought out, and it's not going to be a strategic move. So think and move, determine the destination before you start to plot your course. So that way you'll be able to tell when you're off course if you plotted the course to a destination versus, discovering a place that people already live in. We're going to go there another day. Anyway, and then tool number three is don't be a prisoner to your current location. Where you're at mentally and physically, even whether things are good or bad, doesn't matter, positive or negative, where you're at is temporal. And so if you choose to hold yourself in the tower hostage like Rapunzel, if that's what you choose to do, that's a choice that you're making. And the sad thing is that you got to make that choice every day. And a lot of us do. Stop making that choice to hold yourself prisoner to the present if you're not happy with it. If you are happy with it, then hey, I wouldn't say hold yourself prisoner to it, but do what you can to make it better. Because no matter how high on the hog you're living or how low on the hog you're living, guess what? You always have an opportunity to improve whatever circumstances, whatever routines that you do have in your life. So those are the three tools that I have for you when it comes to where you at. As always, I like to share a story, a personal experience that I had when I was thinking about this concept of where are you at? And it was really a question that I had to ask myself. And the question actually originated from something that one of my mothers, I have tons of mothers, so I say one of my mothers, but a very close mother of mine. She told me something when I was going through something in life, and it's something that I'm constantly thinking about. She said, you know what, Billy? Make sure you close the chapter you're on before you move forward into your next chapter. And that always stuck with me. And I was being a knucklehead when she told me this because I was making horrible decisions. But what I've been doing as of late, and what got me thinking about where you're at, is I'm a person who can be moody. Like I mean, you see me on the first row and you may think, oh, he's just, every day is a happy day. No, that's not the case. There's some days where I'm frustrated. And in the days where I'm frustrated, and recently the past 2 weeks where I've been frustrated and really trying to figure out what's going on mentally in the background, it's nothing like a physical location, it's a mental thing. I've had to step back and really look at what my circumstances are and what has gotten me to a place where I'm frustrated and what exactly am I frustrated with. And having honest and transparent conversations with myself, I'm starting to identify not necessarily everything. However, I am identifying some of the things that are driving the frustration. Number one, there's a lot of pulls on my time, in the sense of people that I care about, and then there's people that are just people, like acquaintances, that may want to try to pull on my time. So I've become very, very clear when it's like, oh, this person wants time. Do I have that time to give? Yes or no? And I, like, even in my last trip to going home to California to visit, I was like, you know what? I don't have a whole lot of time, and I'm going to spend time with these three key people, and everybody else, then I'll catch you guys on the next trip. And it made, honestly, it made my trip a lot more relaxing, and for the part that could be enjoyable. So the other thing is that it gave me the reflection, I guess the reflective nature that I have gives me the ability to look at what I'm frustrated by, or the point at which I got frustrated and didn't address it. And that's really about looking at the circumstances as well. That when I said that journey, looking at that journey and saying, where along the journey did I pick up some frustration? Because I was feeling pretty good until, oh, right there. And so what did I do to resolve that? Not only what did I do to resolve that, because now I want to determine where I want to go. Now I want to determine what my destination is. Billy, do you want to be an irritated, agitated, on the edge, ready to fight somebody person? Or do you want to be a pretty much chill, level 2, level 1 on the anxiety scale, and a person who people can come to and not have to worry about you being combative? And so once I decided what my destination was, now the onus of the responsibility comes back on me to say, you know what? I need to go ahead and make sure I'm doing some things like getting enough sleep. Okay, I'm not sleeping well. What's driving this sleeping pattern to be off? How do I improve that? I have a sleep window. If people who are close to me know I have a sleep window, and if I miss it, I'm inviting a space of insomnia. It doesn't mean that every time I miss my sleep window, I get stuck with insomnia. However, if I do miss my sleep window, now I'm increasing the odds that I won't be able to get to sleep, that I won't be restful, which goes back into my mood swings and puts me back into a prisoner into my current state. And so those are the things that really have been driving my mental I guess environment or habitat has really been driving what type of actions I choose, and what types of things I'm involving myself in. And so now I'm really cognizant and aware of, and this is something that I've been working on this probably about past week, is about being constantly aware of the things that I am capable of changing, the things that I can rush, and the things that are just going to come when they come. One of those things was my garbage disposal broke down on Monday last week. They just finally got here today to fix it. Hey, there was nothing I could do to make them go faster. When a week came, I checked and said, hey, I just want to make sure you guys got my request. I didn't go in there and be like, it's ridiculous and unreasonable that you guys haven't fixed my garbage disposal yet, and I can't use the side of my. No, that's not who I want to be, and that's not the direction that I want to head. Again, understanding the destination will help you plot the proper course and let you know when you're off track. Now, that doesn't mean that I always get back on track immediately. Sometimes I do veer off and I'll take a detour like 6 blocks down, 2 blocks over to the left, and then come back. But for the most part, I'm really working on holding myself accountable, and that's where you're at. That's where are you at when you're asking yourself that question. It's about holding yourself accountable to where you're at presently and where you want to be presently. Because again, the present and the future, they're very closely related. So where you're at presently and where you want to be at presently, so that you can start moving that pendulum or moving in that direction so that you can get to where you want to be at. So as always, I thank you guys for tuning in to the Wednesday Word. Brother Mark, Brother Bruce, thank you guys for tuning in live. For anybody else who's watching live, thank you guys for tuning in live. The next time you will see me live on the first row will be next Wednesday. That is at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The topic is pending. I am on a social media fast this week, so there will not be anything up this week regarding the first row on social media. That's why you didn't get a notification on social media. However, I will have at least the next week, I will at least put content up on social media for first row. I don't think I'm going to go back into social media, because I think that was also one of the things I identified was kind of nagging at my mental state, was just social media and a lot of the stuff that goes on there. So I'm just taking a break from it. Why? Because I want to be a better person. Hopefully you do too. Until the next time, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, look forward to engaging with you guys in the live chat. If you're watching live, look forward to engaging you with the comments section up to the first week of this content being released. After that, we move on to the next one. But until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless.